Austrian Audio is a fairly new audio gear manufacturer. They're based in Vienna and most of their employees are from AKG. Austrian Audio has made 3 headphones, the Hi X50, the X55, and the X65. They just announced their lower-priced options, the X15 and the X25 BT. I wanted to get more information about this company and reached out for an interview. Martin Seidl, the CEO of Austrian Audio, was kind enough to participate in a recorded interview. We discussed his company's beginnings, their microphones and headphones, and plans for the future. Martin's passion and honesty are patently obvious, and I found our discussions entertaining, enlightening, and gratifying. I thank Martina at Austrian Audio for helping set up this interview, and, of course, I am very thankful for Martin agreeing to this interview. As a side note, I will apologize for the audio quality, at least on my end. This interview was recorded over Zoom, and the audio levels were not exactly matched. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this interview, and if you have a chance, take a look at Austrian Audio. I think they've got a bright future. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me and letting me record this and put it up on YouTube.
It's a pleasure, always. I love to talk, about all the good things happening with Austrian Audio.
Well, we will definitely get into all of that. So before we start, if it's all right, we can start now, or would you like to wait a few minutes?
No, it's all good. I'm ready to go.
Great. So one thing I'm going to let the viewers on my channel read your biography that Martina was kind enough to send over, but I want to highlight for them, and if you want, you can correct me, that you were the vice president for AKG Acoustics for some amount of time. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
And how long were you the vice president there?
Well, let me put it that way. My total time at Harman for the group was 16 years, and I was there 4 years at AKG as a European sales manager. Then I was 8 years in California working for JBL Professional as the vice president of the European sales. And then I was back at AKG for another 4 years as vice president for sales, market development, and marketing. So yeah, 16 years in total.
And during that period, did you have an opportunity to help create the Harman target curve?
You mean the famous Jean-Olive Harman headphone target curve?
Yes, that one.
No, I was not directly involved into that. My role was sales marketing, and I'm graduated Tonmeister from the University of Music in Vienna. So I'm a user. I'm involved in Pro Gear. Jean-Olive's curve primarily was created for, let's say, audiophile listening initially, and I wasn't involved directly in that, no.
Do you have any opinion about that curve at all, considering that it's, AKG is part of that?
That's a really good question. I like a lot of the approach. There are different approaches to that. Me personally, I wouldn't stick that strictly to that because there are different, let's say, applications for different and different requirements for different headphone gear, and so I wouldn't agree that it's an absolute curve that fix it all. But it's a let's say a very now I'm missing the word. Academic approach, which works in a lot of cases as a good starting base.
Right, because it takes the average of multiple curves, multiple sound signatures, and they use the statistical average of the one that most people tend to gravitate towards. So that's why you say it's a little bit more mathematical. It's more analytical. It
is analytical, it's mathematical, and as you say, it takes the average, so it can't work for everyone. Because there's always very, very far to the left and very far to the right of an average. And again, if you then create products for, let me call it, just to say something, for a DJ application, you definitely would have a different approach than if you would like to have an audio file as linear as possible approach. And on the other hand, again, the curve of Jean is not targeted to be extremely linear and analytic. And that's something that audio engineers in studios, for example, mixing and especially mastering would need. So, I think it's an average taste, or an average, as you say, what many people lean towards, but I wouldn't say it's the absolute number for, let's say, studio and recording in some respect.
Is there one curve that you or Austrian Audio prefer? I assume it's not the Harman curve, because that's not what I hear in your headphones.
Yeah, it's not. We have a sound signature, yes, and this is really leaning towards being a little bit more analytic, especially if you listen to the closed back Hi X55, for example. Then there is, and this is always with a slight enhancement of 6 to 7 kilohertz, where we open it up, especially in closed headphone designs, for having a wider picture, a more airy and transient picture. But what our top goal and target always is, that, and that's a dangerous part, that even those frequencies and above never get harsh, even if you like to listen louder. So I think, yes, that's our signature curve, and it's clearly measurable in most of our products.
So Austrian Audio opened its doors in middle of 2017. And since 2017 till now, your company has released a number of products year after year.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say, although it was, we started with a white sheet of paper. I mean, as you know, that the headquarters of AKG in Austria were closed and everybody was let go. So that was my opportunity to take all the people over. And when you mentioned that Austrian Audio opened its door on the 1st of July 2017, that's because on the 13th of June, the headquarters in Vienna was closed. So it was the next day, actually, that we started working. We have started to work on our core competence, which is recording microphone. So we started to develop our own acoustic, our own capsule, which is a patent, and it is very well reviewed all over the globe, I must say, which then resulted about 2 years after we started our first product in the market, which was a high quality recording microphone, the OC818 and the OC18, the little brother, which is a single membrane and only a carded pattern. The 818 is a selectable one. And in parallel, we started the development of our first headphones. Now, for us, it was important that we are not, re-engineering anything, but that we always wanted to bring something to the market that has something special, something new, that really is a tool, a help for creative people in the music industry. And so that's why we didn't take a capsule that was available on the market for the microphones. We started really and took a year, a little bit more than a year, to create a new capsule from scratch. And the same we did for the headphones. We created our own high excursion drivers, which is a proprietary technology, which you can find in all of our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 now released headphone products.
So you mentioned something about AKG shutting its doors on the 30th, and then the following day, Austrian Audio opening its doors. And I wanted to just, maybe you don't feel comfortable answering this question, but I wanted to throw this out there. AKG moved from Austria to Eastern Europe, and I think some manufacturing in China, or at least in the Far East. How did that make you feel, knowing that the company that made its name in Austria decided to shut its doors and lay people off? Did that have an impact on your mindset or how you approach your company?
May I answer this question in two parts? The one is
Absolutely.
I want a little bit, I want to correct the picture that AKG moved somewhere. AKG closed its headquarters and let all engineering staff, all development staff, all product management, all engineers, acoustic, mechanical engineers go. It was not a single person moved to anywhere. And now that comes to the second part of the question, AKG, as all Harman, has started already earlier to move production into other countries. So parts of it into Eastern Europe, most part of it, honestly, to Far East. There is only a fraction of stuff still made in Eastern Europe. But basically no new product development happening there, at least with none of the engineers that were at AKG at any time. So I think that puts the picture a little bit straight. Now, does this hurt me? I'm an Austrian, I'm a Viennese. I grew up with this brand, which is a world-renowned brand and inventor of the first real good dynamic microphones. And I was really always very, very hard attached to this brand. I used it when I was sound engineer in my own studio and live. And of course, it's as it is with all these legend brands that, change their way, that I feel sorry. I feel a little bit sad because, there were good things happening in Vienna. And that was the only reason, because, nobody has waited for a new microphone and headphones company. But the only reason to do that was to keep this team together, the knowledge. You can always hire a good acoustician and a good mechanical engineer or an electronic engineer, but it's not the single persons that make a company. It's this team that went through good and bad in development, through all the stumble stones that happen in microphone development. And to bring such a team together, working like this team works together, would have taken years. So the opportunity really was to keep that team and that knowledge together, to start from that point and take it to the next stage.
So what I hear from you is that you took this essentially a sad portion or sad history of AKG and then turned it into a positive, because you took all that engineering prowess and experience and you were able to tap into that to not have this waiting period like a lot of companies do when they start up first, where they have to stumble through all sorts of products and bad reviews. You already had an experienced team to go to. And that's why it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's why your products came out, in my personal opinion, without much stumbling, any real issues. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it is fair to say, and I'm really grateful and happy about that, because it's always an adventure. You never know, what happens. But the nice thing, I always tend to say, Austrian Audio is the first startup company with more than 400 years in experience in what we're doing. So yes, I must say the first product, the 818, never had a bad review. It was always 5-star. It was, in the first year on the market, used by, for example, the Austrian national broadcast station to broadcast the New Year's concert from the Golden Hall in Vienna to 100 countries. It was in the first year of its appearance on the Grammy stage, 8 microphones of us, and they wouldn't use that stuff if it wasn't, let's say, A class. So yeah, I think we were lucky to so far not have a single bad review on any product we released so far.
You've mentioned the OC818 a couple of times, so that's one microphone I've wanted for a long time, and it's on my list. But I have some experience with a lot of microphones from AKG, Sennheiser, Rode, Warm Audio. In fact, I'm recording this right now on a WA47 from Warm Audio. What makes your 818, which is the pricier of the two microphones that you sell, what makes the 818 special compared to the alternatives that people can buy from these other companies?
Well, if you have enough time, I'll start from scratch. No, I'll try to make it in a nutshell. But point one, we had the experience, the people in the company were the creators and designers of some of the most famous microphones in this market. We had the heritage and the knowledge about the CK12 capsule, which is copied by so many companies all over the globe. But our CKR12 capsule has something very special. Over the last, don't quote me for that, it's 15 years or whatever it was, the capsule, the CK12 capsule, was not made like the original. It was a plastic capsule over the last 15 years. The original one was a brass metal capsule and had its significant sound signature. And this changed. Now, a lot of people are paying a lot of money for vintage microphones where still the old brass capsule is included. What our target was, we wanted to revive this heritage sound with this warm high end and this full rich sound, but we had to find a way to make it A, producible, and B, something better. So we experimented, we started with experimenting with materials, and you may or may not know, but the CKR12 ring is made of ceramic. And why? Because ceramic, it has a similar weight as brass, so it gives the same gravity, it gives the same weight to the capsule, which is an important part of the sound, but with all the benefits that it's not of metal. So you lose all the moisture problems, you lose all the things, the vintage microphones you have, bringing them from the warmth to the cold, that you have electricity shortcuts between the metal parts, because ceramic is a great isolator. So that's the first part. Then, of course, all the membrane, gold spotted mylar in a 6 micromillimeter thickness. So the capsule by itself has a signature sound that can't be copied, or it really reaches this old vintage sound, but it's now in a way producible that we can, achieve a yield in production, which is affordable. And then, of course, when we had the capsule, we said, okay, we want to make a great product, a great microphone. And there are a lot of microphones out there that are great, and we have, I would say, friends in the industry, and with a lot of respect to each other. You name them, Neumann and all the rest. The thing is, the philosophy of Austrian Audio was, we want to do an analog, like vintage studio microphone, but then bring it into a modern workflow. And so we came up with the idea, why does a microphone only have a switch from an 8 to an omni, to a cardioid, to a hypercardioid? Why couldn't we make this seamless? And we did. That's why we gave the microphone a second mini XLR slot at the back, at the rear of the microphone. And this has two advantages. A, you can bring the second capsule separately out of the microphone and record both of them. That gives you one benefit, that if you couldn't decide during the recording because you didn't know the recording room, or you were not sure about the instruments, do you use a cardioid, a hypercardioid, or how do you want to record that? Now you can, after the event of recording, decide what was the pattern, because a pattern is created by mixing the two capsules in a way together. Now you have both capsules outside, and now you can, in the event of post-production, after the recording, decide, was this a hypercardioid or a cardioid recording? How much of the room do I want to have in the microphone? So that's one part. The second part is, in this mini XLR, it's a 5-pin, there's also an input for a little Bluetooth dongle. And now I need to say, attention, Bluetooth, consumer, bad, digital. No, this is not in the audio path, but we use Bluetooth to remote control the microphone. Now, for example, you have your app on your phone or your tablet, and now you can, point one, really seamlessly in 254 steps, create your own pattern between an Omni, an 8, whatever. You
Wow.
can find your own pattern in any minimum step. Point two, if you have, for example, a live recording, you do a string quartet or you do a choir, you put the microphones up there, and then you find, oh, I've got too much of the audience, too much of the room. I need to change the microphones either in the pattern or in the damping. So, you put minus 10 dBs on it, or you need to reduce the pattern. You can now do this remotely from your app, from your phone, without having a step ladder going back up to the microphone, or in a live broadcast where you have a camera on stage and you don't want to go on stage. You just remote control the microphone, and it's still a pure analog high-end recording microphone. It's just remote controlled. Nobody has done that before. So we try to get this modern way of working into heritage acoustic. And that's what we try to follow through with all our products.
Well, I'm looking forward to trying that 818 when I get a chance. I always thought it was a very beautiful looking microphone, and the reviews I've read about it are just phenomenal. So one day when I have a chance to buy it, I will definitely give it a good review, thorough review.
Yeah, give it a try. I would be interested in your thoughts.
So let's talk about your headphones. So let me tell you just a very short story about how I got to the X55. I was in the market for a recording headphone, a closed back recording headphone, and I was going through all sorts of websites, and I came across the X55 and I came across the Aventone Planar, and I saw the X55 and it was stunning to look at, and I tried to find reviews about it and I couldn't find it, but I decided I'm going to buy this headphone because it seemed reasonably priced to me. And when I got it and I listened to it, I was surprised by its clarity, its imaging, its placement, its soundstage for a closed back. Everything was very different from my preconceptions about typical closed back headphones. And then I started reading reviews that came out shortly after that. Reviews from professionals were fairly positive, and then there were a few forum pages regarding the X55 that were not particularly positive. I have a two-part question. Part one is this. When you first were designing the X55, what exactly were you guys aiming for? What did you want the X55 to be able to do and sound like?
We wanted to sound well. We wanted it to be a professional tool and very analytical. That's the sound stage of the X55. So we gave it a very, very precise and a little bit increased mid-range, and it's designed for any kind of vocalists. You hear every single little bit, and that's what it was made for. It was made as a tool to really analyze what you're doing during the recording, and pointing towards, let's say, let's keep it for later. And the second thing, and it's always, maybe, sometimes people smile at me when I say that, but the second most important thing was it needed to be a tool that is a workhorse, that is extremely solidly built. And I think you can find not a single comment, even on those forums you mentioned before, that wouldn't say it's the most comfortable headphone. You can wear it for hours and hours. All the metal parts, there is really no plastic part on any heavy carrying load piece of it. Even though it's foldable, it's rock solid. And that's a very important thing, because people who work with headphones as a professional need, or as the cutter, for example, that's also a very good headphone for editing on video and doing the audio for video. and audio sound, the sound for any picture movies, because you hear every little detail of a sound effect, of a click, of a shoe step, and that's what it's made for. It's a tool. It's not made to sound smooth and nice. It's made to sound analytical and to be a tool. And I think you will not find any review that, let's say, questions that.
The second part of my question is this: are you aware of the criticisms that the X55 received in forums?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
absolutely.
And so when you read those, you heard about those criticisms, I think that a lot of that was based upon frequency response measurements and not so much about people actually listening to the headphones. What was your reaction to those criticisms?
Again, it was a twofold reaction. The one thing is, I clearly understand where it comes from, and I can absolutely, let's say, reproduce with my ears and with my experience what these, let's say, not so positive reviews were targeting at. And you say it was more an analytical or measurement point of view. Well, I wouldn't even go that far. I think people had it on their heads and were kind of disappointed that it had maybe not that much low mid end, because people tend to say it has not enough low end, which is not true. There is a lot of low end in this headphone, but it's not as much low mids. And there's a reason for that, because well, let me put it differently. There is not less low mid, but we have, as I mentioned before, increased the range of 1.5 to 2.5 kilohertz. And that's for the analytical reason. Now, that makes you feel less low mids. But if you do the measurement, you would see it's rather the bump on the 1.5 to 2.5 kilohertz up, rather than a missing low mid. Now, if you would boost those low mids to make it sound smoother and nicer, you would take the analytic part away from it. So yes, I can fully understand it, and I can understand if you want a pure, let's say, musician recording headphone that should give you more felt sound pressure for doing like electric guitar recordings, or where you need a lot of power. You may not choose the X55, and I fully understand that. On the other hand, and that's, I can't say more than, we of course react to what customer tell us what they need, and so you might rather sooner than later see another product coming to market that addresses that criticism. So you have then a choice if you want to have an analytical tool, or if you want the other part that you just described, or these forums described.
So is the X65 a response to the X55 criticisms?
No, not at all. No, not at all. The 65 is a completely different product. It's an open back design, and you wouldn't use it in the recording room because you would have too much spillover into the microphones. And you never use open cans really in the recording room. This is really a mixing and mastering headphone. You might also say, and we got a lot of reviews already, that it's an audiophile product because it's has a very wide stereo picture, and you hear a lot of transients, but that's system immanent basically if you build an open back. So the 65 was always planned as it is and on the roadmap, because we wanted to have this mixing headphone more for the, for the mixing desk and not for the recording room. And people love it. It's very smooth, it's very open, it's very transient, it's very transparent. But that's not the response to criticism that comes from the market. But as I say, we haven't stopped making new ideas and products.
Speaking of new ideas and products, I got the marketing material for the new X15 and X25 BT that are in pre-order status, at least in the United States. and I think they're supposed to be available for shipping next month. What should we expect from these two headphones?
The idea behind the HiX15 and the HiX25 is pretty simple. We wanted to reduce to the max, if you want to say so. So even in those lower cost products, they will be significantly lower priced than the current models. We still are going the route to using our premium HiX 44mm drivers. So you will find the same premium drivers in there. So we are not buying anything from the shelf. We are not reducing our, let's say, quality requirement we want to bring to the sound. You can expect them to be, but even the hinge bar and all the carrying parts are made of metal. So this is, and they are still foldable. But yes, we have reduced in some aspects to really become a workhorse. Those are closed back hands. They will serve the needs for, you know, studios that need 5, 6, 7, 10 pairs of them. Use a lot of sound pressure. I guess those forums who criticize the 55 will probably like the sound of the 15 and the 25 better, probably. Let's see what the reviews will tell us and what the market will tell us. So they are rugged, they are loud, they are really recording room headphones, and they will retail, I really don't know by heart, to be honest, but I think somewhere between 129 and 139 US dollars, the 15s. And with the 25, we had a crazy idea. You know, at the end of the day, there's a lot of mobile recording happening there, and every musician and recording artist or engineer is also a consumer and wants to take his mixing or his piece of music with him. So the idea was, okay, shall we do a Bluetooth headphone? Austrian Audio is a pro company. So does it really make sense to make a Bluetooth headphone? Well, you know, when you finished your work and you go outside and you take it with you, Bluetooth is a nice to have. But the 25 is a hybrid. And that's an extremely important statement I want to make, because we didn't save on the wrong places. So what you get with the 25 is you have in the box and of course in the circuitry, you can also hardwire the 25, both analog and digitally. So you have hardwired digital output via USB-C. You have hardwired analog audio to a 3.5-inch jack. So you can use it completely as a studio recording headphone with no latency. And we all know that Bluetooth is not an option for live recording because the latency just doesn't allow that. But you know, if you are done and you take it out, I don't know, with you, and you go on a tour bus and you want to listen to some music, just turn on the Bluetooth and you have your known sound with you, and you have the option of the Bluetooth as well.
So the X25BT is, according to your website, MSRP is $180 roughly, and the X15 is about $120. Now with the X25BT, it says that it has Bluetooth 5.0, but I can't find information, at least on the website, which indicates what codec the 25BT supports. Can you tell us what we should, what type of codecs it will support?
I think you get me on the wrong foot right now because I can't tell you. I don't know by heart.
Okay, fair enough.
I apologize.
No, that's all right. So I'm looking at both of these headphones, the 15 and the 25BT, and one of the things that you mentioned just a few moments ago is how these two headphones are really undercutting the current price that you have for your headphones. They're much cheaper, and this gives access to studios to buy multiple of these headphones if they want to use them. Is there anything about these headphones sonically that will set them apart from the X55 or X65?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start with the 65. They are both closed back headphones. And, you know, without going into acoustic details, we all know that you can't really create a closed back can that performs like an open back. So I wouldn't compare it even to the 65 because it's a different bass and it's a different sonic design. If you want to compare it to the 55, yes, there's a difference. They are really more tuned to a lower end. They are tuned to have a little bit more low, mid, and bass sound pressure level if you want to have that typical or you need the loudness to get the feeling for let's say live rock recording, and there is also an average taste that leans towards that kind of sound if you're playing, let's say, a more piece band in the recording room where you need that kind of energy and power. So the sound tuning wise, the 15, which is very similar to the 25, I would call it a little bit more powerful and a little bit more smooth at the low mids and the end.
And how about if we compare to the X50, which is the smaller brother of the X55 and the close back?
Yeah, I would say it gets closer to the X50. The X50, of course, has a different sonic design than the high X55 because the 50 is an on-ear, has a smaller volume between the driver and the ear, and is a little bit more designed also. You know that DJs prefer an on-ear design rather than an over-ear design, and DJs prefer to have a little bit more energy in the low end. So that's why the 50 is designed sonically as it is designed. And I would say, yeah, you would find the 15s leaning a little bit towards that sound signature of the 50 than the 55.
Whenever I talk to people from companies, when I'm interviewing them, I give them this question about one of their products. I want to invite you to consider one of these, this question. What do you think is missing or needs improvement in your current headphones, the 55 and the 65?
Need for improvement. Okay.
It's kind of a trick question because then you have to admit that there might be something wrong. But what do you think?
Well, that's why you hear me. That's why you hear me so silent, because there's not much I can think of. So you know, I think it's always dangerous to discuss improvement of sound. I mean, of course, there are objective things like distortion, like sound pressure level, whatsoever. And of course, these are very clear numbers that you can try to improve or not improve. If you look at the THD of our headphones, they are extremely low. So you have really hardly any distortion. Well, hardly any. Very low distortion on all our headphone products. So I don't see a need to improve that. Again, I would rather say we understood the market and we understood the criticism of some part of the users. And on the other hand, it's always a good thing if a product doesn't please everyone, because nothing is worse than having a product that's okay-ish for everybody. I rather have a product that some people love and some people hate. And then for those who don't like it that much, I create another product that they love. So if you want to know what I would to improve on the 55, I wouldn't improve anything, but I will give, or we will give, an alternative to our clients and to our customers so they can pick and choose between two sound signatures. And that's what we plan to do. That's a very open statement because it's a future information. But anyway, so that's what I can think of improvement or change or addition to our sound, to our product range in regards of the 55. In regards of the 65, I would like to quickly tap into the cost and pricing issue here. You mentioned that the products are very fair priced for what they are. 55, 50, 55, 65. If you look at the make, if you look at the build, they're all handcrafted, put together here in Vienna. There is all of that is stainless steel, aluminum, or sorry, in US you say aluminum.
Aluminum is fine. I grew up saying that myself.
So, you know, I think the build quality is really, really high. The slow retaining memory foam is high quality. So, and we priced them, and I'm very honest and very open blunt here. You know, we priced them not at a very high margin for us, because Austrian Audio is a young brand, and we want to show what we're capable of doing, and we want to bring great products to the market for a fair price. Just bear in mind the HiX drivers. They are ring magnet systems with a lot of magnet in there. If you know the prices of neodymium, you know that this is a quite costly exercise. So we wanted to bring technology, which usually those kind of drivers you wouldn't find in any headphone that is below $600. And we wanted to bring this into a range where people say, yeah, it's not a $99 thing, but it is a fair priced, high quality product with the technology in there. Now, can you drive that even further? And now what can we improve on a 65? Yes, you can. You know, you can still invest into additional materials. You can play around with the size of the driver. But I wanted to make this statement here as well. You know, a lot of people are making 50, 55 millimeter drivers and advertise that pretty loudly. Larger in that case is not always better, because you lose speed of the movement of the membrane. And that's a bad thing, because that is basically a trade-off with accuracy of the low-end reproduction. And the second thing is, the larger membrane gets, the more it wobbles. And in an ideal case, the membrane should move like a piston, right? It should move the same range on all parts of the membrane. And the larger it gets, the more difficult it gets to fulfill that task. So that's why we clearly created those 44 millimeter driver, but with a lot more excursion than any other driver has. That's why it's called HiX, for high excursion. And that way we move the same amount of air as bigger drivers. That's why we play down to 5 Hertz, but more accurate, more exact, faster. Now, can you push that limit? You know, we wouldn't be an R&D company. We wouldn't be a research company and development company if we wouldn't try that every minute of our work. So can we even improve that HiX driver? We are working on that. Can we play with other materials on a 65 plus or whatever the name might be? Probably. So we are, you know, we are just starting. We haven't finished with developing products. So I'm sure you will see more products as we go in the next 12 months.
Okay. What do you think is the biggest misconception or misunderstanding about your headphones?
Wow. Well, probably some people may consider them as being hi-fi headphones, which they are not. They are recording tools, and we had reviews in large magazines like What's Hi-Fi, for example, which is definitely a consumer-driven magazine. But I must say, funny or not, in What's Hi-Fi, it was a full five-star review on the HiX 55. So, you know, whatever you think. Misconception, I haven't heard of a real misconception. Sorry, can't think of any.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed is people spending, and I mentioned this a little while ago, but people spending a lot of effort looking at frequency response graphs and judging headphones based upon that.
Yep.
And the very first review or commentary I read about the X55 after I purchased it is, I think it was on, I forget which website, but it doesn't really matter. I saw it on a website, and they were complaining about how awful the frequency response looked for the X55, and therefore it must sound terrible. And I think that caught on speed and became part of the talking points for a lot of people who came across the X55, especially after seeing my videos on it. Do you think that frequency response graphs are the end all be all, or are they just part of the equation that people need to take into consideration?
Well, you know, frequency response always is important, and that's why everyone is doing it, because it's, again, you know, it's an objective starting point to tune a headphone. But the interesting part is really we never ever release a product that's only measured in the laboratory. We always have a listening panel, and we have trained ears inside and outside the companies. We are always alpha and beta testing the products. So yes, my recommendation, my hope, and my ask to any customer would be, you know, don't read frequency responses and believe what you might hear. Put the headphones on your ear and listen to them, and they might fit perfectly for you, and they might not. I mean, just bearing in mind that you don't find a single exactly same pair of ears on this globe. If we now start talking about you know, head-related transfer functions and the behavior of each acoustic on every different ear, then we really get into long discussion. And you know, it's pretty simple to create frequency responses on a sheet of paper. By the way, put the same piece of headphone on different couplers, so measurement tools, and you will get different responses. I think you always need to have a very wide average fit after a long period of testing to the as many different ears as you can get. And it's the same with microphones, by the way. You know, it's so simple, and you can find almost identical frequency response sheets on microphones starting from $99 to going to $9,000, and then go 1 degree off axis and it all falls apart. And it's the same with ears. Put them differently on your ear, and the whole frequency response you find on a laboratory measurement tool will definitely not match what you hear. So please put them on your ears, test them if they suit you and if they work well for you. I think that's what I would really hope everyone would do, rather than reading spec sheets only.
I think that's a fair answer. One thing that I've noticed on your website is, and in your marketing material, is that you guys have mentioned that you want to take on the industry giants, and that's quite of it's a challenge, not only to yourselves, but it's also a challenge towards your competitors. What do you think your competitors are doing wrong in your mind that Austrian Audio is going to do better?
Well, again, as I said before, we are not trying to redesign things that are there. We have a lot of very good brainstorm sessions with inside and external people, and trying to find pain points in the market. And I'm not saying the others don't. I think that's what every serious development company in the industry does. There's just a lot of different ideas coming to the market, and especially on the headphones, I think a strong statement we made and we make is to put a higher quality driver into a price range of products that wasn't there yet. So I think we don't compromise on the on the heart of the products, maybe in a microphone on the capsule, or maybe on the headphone on the driver. And I'm not talking about, there are numerous brands out there making headphones. If you would open them up, you would find a lot of same drivers coming from the same factory in a lot of headphones that are in the price point below $300. And that's what we won't do.
Okay. I have a number of questions from my subscribers when I told them that we were going to do this interview, and I'm hoping you'd allow me to ask those questions, answer them as you would want, short or long, as you wish. Is that all right with you?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the
That's
first
all right
one.
with me. I hope I can find all the answers.
Well, I don't think they're going to be very difficult. So here's the first one. One subscriber asks, is Austrian Audio going to make high-end headphones? And I think what they're referring to is to the likes of, say, the LCD4 from Audeze or the Focal Utopia or anything like that.
If you could see my face, you would see a smile, and my answer is probably.
Well, that's good to know. And then it'll keep this person very excited. So when we say, okay, so when he says high-end headphones, and when you think about this high-end headphone concept, can you tell us just very generally, without spilling any secrets, what we could expect? Like, what is Austrian Audio thinking when they think high-end headphone? Because we've seen $450 headphone, and I think it's fantastic what you guys have done so far. How do you get to a higher end headphone that's more than $450? What changes?
Please allow me to not spill any secrets. I only want to say as much as I said before. We are experimenting with new materials, even on the drivers, with even faster responses, with pushing the limits of the drivers, I would say, is definitely something that you could expect, and all the rest that comes with a high-end headphone, or probably even with a let's say set of headphones, including something that drives it.
Okay. We will leave it at that. Here's the next question. They're asking if Austrian Audio is using the same drivers in both the X55 and X65. And the second part of that question is, why is the X65 more costly than the X55?
That's easy to answer. There is a lot of detail work that you need to do on an open back headphone. It's the same driver, that's correct, but it's tuned differently. And that's, again, something that you only can do if you create your own driver, and if you have the acousticians in-house that can manipulate even the drivers and the damping of the drivers, the fabric that you're using to start tuning the sound of your headphone, not only with the volumes, back volume, front volume, all the rest of it, but even tune the driver itself. B, if you look at the 65, you will find, I mean, please don't open it up. You may resell your second one, but
yeah, you sell us a second
one. But it's not only the driver, it's not only what you see at the outside of the headphones, that you don't have a closed aluminum plate outside, but you have an open perforated one. But it's also the construction inside that's more fragile, that has the plates where the drivers are mounted in the headphones are open designed, which is more costly than if you use just simple plates. You would look at the cushions, for example. If you look at them, you find them, they are 3 ways manufactured. They are perforated, so even the head cushions are open designed, not only the rest of the back volume. So even the cushions, if you look at them, are much more costly designed, 3 layers. different foam because of a more spacey and acoustically not as much shielding head cushions and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of difference, and that's pure material and manufacturing cost.
Okay. Third question. This person essentially is asking, are there any plans for an open back version of the X15 and the X25 BT?
Not that I know of.
All right. The next question is this, and I think you've partially answered this already, but I'm going to just put it out there anyway. Is Austrian Audio going to try other headphone technologies like planar or electrostatic and any DACs or amps to complement their headphones?
Again, this goes into the roadmap that's pretty far out in the future, and I wouldn't want to discuss or analyze this at this point. It's not in the near future.
Okay. So here's an interesting question, and I'll just quote them.
Mm-hmm.
I would also be interested if any of the technology and build philosophy of the OC818 condenser microphone's ceramic capsule, which has a very wide flat response, could be useful in the design of a driver for headphones, end quote.
Wow. Interesting. I would say it could be used, but acoustically, currently, we can't see a benefit coming of it. Second part is the ceramic rings would be extremely heavy and would put a lot of weight to the headphones, which nobody wants because people are trying to get as lightweight as possible for the best acoustics you can, of course, but the ceramic material in that case can be replaced with other materials that is lighter weight, and that's why we're not doing that. And last but not least, the ceramic was our reply to create a capsule. It's a little bit different. When you sing into a capsule, you are moving the capsule, or basically you want to move the membrane, not the capsule. That's why it needs to also be a little bit heavier than a plastic capsule. That's why we created this ceramic rings. And also the moisture that comes from, singing into it could cause electrical issues, which you don't have on your ear because there is no moisture basically coming from your ear into the driver. So yes, you can think of using ceramic in a driver for a headphone, but currently we don't see a benefit of doing that.
Okay. Here's another question that I'm just going to quote. Here it is. Excursion force, what characteristics do they look for in dynamic drivers, or what is it you do that enables them to deliver great macro dynamics and huge punch without making it all tonally about the mid bass, but instead keeping it quite monitor-like? Does that make sense?
Cool. Now first time you bring me to the limit of my English skills, I guess. Can you repeat that one, please?
Sure. So specifically discussing excursion force.
Yeah.
What characteristics does Austrian Audio look for in dynamic drivers, or what is it that they do to enable these drivers to deliver great macro dynamics and punch without making it sound mid-bass heavy, but instead keeping it quite monitor-like? So I guess what they're trying to suggest is, at least part of their question, how do you keep the details and how do you keep the bass impact without making it sound bloated? I think that's what they're trying to ask.
Yeah, and I'm the CEO of the company, and I'm not a developing engineer. So I'm not the acoustician who is creating the drivers, nor the design of the headphone or the audio design of the headphone. So I wouldn't want to lean out too far on replying to that. I can only, part of that I replied, I think, in the even movement of the whole membrane. And that's, I think, the most important part, where the over where the sound gets a little bit bassier or too too uneven for the mid and mid-high frequencies is when you don't move the whole membrane simultaneously over the whole what do you call it, square, millimeter size, whatever. And I think to control the even movement of the whole membrane is that what we have targeted as our prime focus, in order to control all the frequencies at the same time and not have the variances which you can't control when the membrane moves more in the middle than it moves on the side parts of it. But again, this is a little bit less scientific reply because I'm not the acoustician, so I'm not the acoustic engineer. I would wish I had them with me now to reply to that, but I can't.
Okay, so there's another a different person who makes a comment first that he finds that your headphones are provide a tremendous amount of detail and clarity, and they were surprised when they first listened to the X55 by all the additional information that they were hearing from their tracks. And their question is whether you think your headphone drivers are comparable to the air motion transformer or the drivers of the technology in the Headphone HEDD phone, or do you think that this is something that is so totally different from everything else that's out there that it can't really be compared to a dynamic driver, AMT, or a headphone?
I think it can't be because the ring magnet system is a completely different system. And I think what we achieve is by this rather the design of the driver, which is rather miniaturized speaker driver more than a headphone driver. We use this technology because it has a free airflow between the coil and the magnet. And that has a lot of advantages, that there you have less resistance, you can keep the THD so low as we do. And another important part of it is that the air moves freely and even gives, after a loud, long session, a cooling factor to the system that keeps the sound impression or the reproduction stable over a long time. So I wouldn't compare them. They are different construction.
Finally, there's one person who wanted to make a comment, and they say that your OC818 microphone is much better than the AKG C414, and they would like you to know that. The statement that they're making, I'm not quoting because it uses some profanity towards AKG, so I'm going to exclude that. But they wanted to let you guys know that they were very impressed with the OC818 and believe that it is superior to the more expensive C414.
Well, thank you very much to this subscriber, and appreciate it really. You know, that's if that's you know, the impression out there, and we got a lot of feedback like that, then we did a good job, because that was target. You know, didn't want to reinvent, sorry, not to recreate something that's out there. We wanted to make it better, and I'm very happy that that you know, this has reached the market. Thank you very much, and we will keep pushing the limits even on microphones. And we are talking a lot of headphones, and I understand this, but please be sure that you will see 1, 2, 3, at least 3 more microphone products coming still this year to the market.
Well, more expensive or less expensive than the 818?
Different targets, different applications.
Understood. Well, thank you very much.
And last statement on the microphones. You know, OC818 stands for open condenser. So we have never mentioned it, and we're not playing this too loud, but I think it's an important part. We all know the ideal acoustic of a microphone would be a free-flying capsule in the open space without any reflections from any side. That's the target for any large condenser microphone. And that's, I think, what makes the 818 better than most of the other large condenser mics. And it's not only because of the large cage, but if you look at the details, like you don't have a hard plate covering or separating the capsule from the electronics. We even have in there a diffusing foam, so that you don't even have a reflection from the small body of the microphone coming to the capsule. That's why we call it OC, open condenser. And this technology makes this little difference in the best free field acoustic you try to achieve in any microphone. And you will see this with a lot of microphones that will come to the market from us as well, even in completely different applications.
Well, your 818 also has a plugin that for DAWs to better fine tune the microphone. I think it's called Stereo Creator, isn't that right?
Well, the Stereo Creator was the last addition to it. The whole platform is called Polar Creator. And yes, that's a plugin for DAWs. And as I mentioned before, you can record both capsules separately and then use the plugin to do a lot of things. And I really urge every user of an 818, download this free of charge software. We don't charge for that. And you will be astonished what you can achieve with playing around with a pattern of a microphone after the recording event, because you hear a different recording room suddenly, and without even EQing and without DSPing, you're creating completely different sounds, different effects, different imaginations of voices, instruments, and rooms. And the nice little part on that, it's completely phase linear, so you don't play around as you do with all equalizers and other sound impacting tools. You don't change the phase linearity, and that's also a big benefit using those Austrian audio plugin for the 818.
No, I have to make this remark. I keep thinking about this, and I'm going through your website, and I keep reminding myself that your company started in 2017, and you just told me maybe 45 minutes ago that you guys started with the blank slate and you had to create from the ground up. I am so surprised that your company is able to come out with so many good products, one after the other. And on top of not only releasing good products, but you have this supporting application for your microphone, the 818. And I think about any other company that I've reviewed, and I cannot come up with any other example of a company doing what you guys are doing, which is you're performing well with your products, you're releasing them, and on top of that, you're actually releasing supporting applications for at least your one microphone. What drives you guys to keep doing this? I mean, you could theoretically just make a couple of headphones every few years, but you're putting yourselves out there and you really are going, all cylinders and creating these. I think they're beautiful looking products, all of them, but you're creating these products that are marketed for different applications and different use scenarios. How do you get to that? How do you get to that? How do you do this every day and come out and say, we're going to release these 5 additional products this year? How does that work?
Again, you see me smile. I am very lucky. I'm a very lucky guy that this team that came together here came together because they wanted to achieve. And I must, I'm so grateful with all the guys doing, I wouldn't say day and night work, but it's nobody really stops thinking about a new thing when one thing is finished. It is simply passion. It's the people in-house. We have a lot of musicians, we have a lot of engineers. Just to give you an example, you can call it nuts if you want to, but we have a guy who is a mechanical engineer, great guy. He has created one of the most famous headphones in our old, let's say, in our old company, which are out there on the market. He's responsible for for the mechanical designs of one of the most sold products of the old brand. And he's a creative electronic musician. And one day he came up with the idea to play with electronic music sound and create beats and sounds that if you put the synthesizer onto an oscilloscope, I guess you know what I'm referring to, you know, these little measurement tools with a green screen that you can see all impulses going into all directions, like an oscilloscope.
Yes.
And he created the music as long until the oscilloscope did show our logo.
No kidding. That is ingenious.
Yeah, and you know, it is just because people love what they do. They are passionate, and you know, when we started to say, okay, we want to make a great recording microphone, but then the ideas came in, and it needs to do something special. It needs to be better. It needs to give something into the hand of the engineer that he never had before, and the ideas don't stop. And I can tell you it's dangerous because, you know, I could make so many more products, but of course there is always cost attached to everything and time attached to it. But you know, I think we just want to continue a heritage we didn't ask for, but incidentally fell into our house, and I think it's just the big wish of everyone to not only create a new recording microphone, but probably a stage microphone, a handheld microphone that is different, that is created completely different, or a small condenser microphone, pencil microphone, you know, all these things. So, you know, it's not about money because we don't have a big group behind us or large investor who is where money doesn't play a role. We just work hard because we wanted to succeed. And I think that makes us a little bit different at the moment, because we wanted to prove probably that it wasn't a good idea to close the headquarters of one of the most famous microphone companies.
I tend to agree. I think most audiophiles would agree with that statement. So what is the end goal for Austrian Audio? What is it that you guys want to achieve? What is the bigger picture here? Because I see when I see products from your company, I see steps, important steps, but small steps towards something bigger. So where do you want your company to be in, say, 5 years or 10 years?
We definitely want to remain being those passionate, creative nuts that we are, and you know, it's really a pain that we've got all these restrictions with all this Corona crisis, because you know, the first 3 years we had even great parties, and you know, we want to remain that creative boutique high-end acoustic company. So it's all about acoustic, and I'm very glad it's about acoustic. In electronics, a lot of things change very rapidly, and there's more memory, and there's faster CPUs, and there's this and that every year. It's doubling, it's tripling. So on the acoustic side, things don't change that much. So you have to be more creative, and you have to push the limits on creative ideas, how you can make acoustic physics, in that case, it's physics, sounding better. And where do we want to be? We want to be the brand that every sound engineer that considers, you know, doing a difficult project or a difficult recording or a 3D recording, to have Austrian Audio in the top 3 consideration brands when he's looking at microphones or headphones to buy a new gear. We want to be the quality tool that enhances creativity for the engineer or the musician. So I guess we won't be, you know, the multi-million-dollar company, but we will be the brand that has something to offer to solve an acoustic problem and that's our target. We want to be in the consideration set of an engineer that buys new gear for a good recording project. That's my target.
Final question. It's the same question I gave everybody. Why do you think people should buy from Austrian Audio and not AKG, Sennheiser, Neumann, audeze, all these other companies that have been established for quite a while, have a lengthy track record? Why should people turn to your products?
Well, the first thing I would say is I'm not telling the customer, don't look at Neumann, Sennheiser, Sheps, or anybody else, because that would be crazy. I think a sound engineer that has a mic case or mic locker where only Austrian audio microphones are in there is not a good sound engineer. And a recording engineer that has no Austrian audio mic in there is as bad as well. So, that's why I would never, ever say, don't buy from them. That would be arrogant and stupid. I just think that we bring new ideas to the market, we bring new tools that lift up creativity and improve your workflow probably, and for certain applications make your life easier. I think that we are focusing not only on creating a product where you buy one and it's a great product, but we are trying to also create a very stable and sustainable output on every of our products. So for example, and that's something to mention, for example, as well on the OC18 or 818, we don't offer matched stereo pairs because our tolerances, and every single product gets tested before it leaves our factory. We create tolerances where the sensitivity of each and every 818 is plus minus half a dB. That's better than you would get if you order a matched pair of other manufacturers. So you can buy one now and you can buy one in a year from now and you have a stereo matched pair. These are little things that we have in mind, that not only the single product by itself sounds great, but also if you collect them and you put them together, they still work great. So yeah, that's why I would say look at Austrian Audio products, because I think we have something to offer that's new to the market. I'm not saying we're the only and one genius and please sell all your other gear. I mean, never ever would say that, and I'm not arrogant enough to say so. Never.
You guys are unique in what you do. You're passionate about your products, and you love what it is that you do. And I think that comes out in your products and just this conversation.
Thank you very much. If that comes across, it's exactly what we are, and what we, to answer your question before, what we want to be in 5 and 10 years still. We want to be that bunch of creative and passionate people, because we are loving the gear, we're using that gear, we're making that gear because we love it.
Well, I hope that people give your company a chance, and if they have an opportunity to listen to your products and use your products, that they do that, because I agree with you, there's something very unique about Austrian Audio stuff, the headphones specifically. Just the comfort, the build, the sound signature is so vastly different from anything else that I've had, especially for their price points, that I think people would be doing themselves a disservice if they didn't at least try them at some point in their lives. So with that being said, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate this conversation, and I'm sure that all my subscribers and the viewers are going to find this helpful, hearing directly from the CEO and hearing directly about Austrian Audio.
Well, thank you very much for giving the opportunity. It was really a pleasure talking to you. It's a nice late Sunday evening. I'm sitting on the terrace looking into the dark right now. It's already 9:30 p.m. here. So thank you very much, and thank you to all your subscribers. And I'm sure we will talk again eventually, and all the best to you.
Thank you very much, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Good night.
Have a good night. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.